Hello and welcome back to the Variant Cast. I'm here with the man that if you see him go into a sauna with a bunch of clones of himself, do not follow him. My guy Trent, how you doing today?
Doing good, proving that I'm not the smartest man on earth. No,
The smartest
yeah, smartest
person, not the
person.
smartest
Yeah,
person on
that's
earth.
facts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be getting into some boys season 4 today.
Yeah, they dropped the first 3 episodes of The Boys season 4, so we're gonna be kind of just going into that general vibes of the season. Maybe a few predictions on where we think the story might go, although I don't actually have any clue. So we'll kind of go through that, as well as a bit later in the episode we'll be talking some MCU Blade. So if you are curious as to what is going on with that, about 5 years into production, they haven't started filming. We'll be going into all the drama behind that. So if you're interested in that, it'll be later in the episode. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the boys.
Yeah, we're starting off the season with a with Homelander's trial. He what exactly? I guess it's just because he's just a bad person because he just killed multiple people, right?
Well, it's in particular because he killed the Starlighter that threw a bottle
Oh yeah, that's
that
right.
hit his
That's right.
son, that he lasered at the end of the last season. So in particular, this trial is about that, which obviously is going to pull parallels from the Kyle Rittenhouse situation because they go into self-defense and all that. And the guy throwing the bottle, he thought his justification was it was self-defense, and that's why he lasered him in half. So
Yeah,
that's kind of where the season picks up and is kind of the forefront of the conflict outside of the impending election that Victoria Newman's character is participating in. And it kind of alludes that she's going to win it and then use her vice president position to then become president, then do some spicy soup stuff.
yeah. We also get introduced to Sister Sage, who is probably one of my favorite boys characters. Um, I just love the fact that she is like the smartest person on Earth, and you do feel like everything that she's doing has like some sort of intention to it. Like anytime she's talking to Homelander, and she like there's a scene where she kind of like talks back to him, and I feel like they do a good job of kind of like making her seem like she knows that what she's doing is like uh, gonna kind of make Homelander a little bit angry, but she does just enough, I feel like, to not push him over the edge.
Yeah, I think she's very aware that he can't just kill her because he essentially does need her where he's at. You wouldn't see Homelander going into street clothes and meeting up with a African American woman, as that is very against his
Yeah,
character. Both the African American part and the woman part, typically not his favorite things, but he kind of gets to that level with it, and she seems to be kind of just manipulating him while he thinks that he's manipulating her. It's like this kind of strange I won't say cat and mouse game, but just like I'm curious if he's going to catch on to the fact that he's being manipulated. Because I think currently where it stands in the series, he does think he has all the power
yeah,
still,
100%.
which is an interesting dynamic that they set up. And I think they've set it kind of is the I'm blanking on her name right now. Liberty then turned into
Storm,
uh
Stormfront.
Stormfront.
Yeah,
Stormfront, there it is. So it kind of fits the same like Homelander's right hand, kind of sidekick role that Stormfront played in the previous season, but it doesn't and Stormfront was also kind of in control there. So it's kind of continuing this theme of Homelander being manipulated by smarter women.
Yeah, he definitely has a little bit of that complex to him. Um, but yeah, no, I love the just what each relationship in the show has built up to this moment. Whether it be like Ashley's character arc where we saw the Deep kind of or I guess Sister Sage told the Deep that, you know, he can kind of be a boss if he wants to. And Ashley kind of just like not not kind of realizing that that was even on the table, and then just being like, oh shit, the Deep can actually just like he is the leader of the seven seas, and like it's kind of intimidating when you kind of forget about
Yeah,
that
you
with the
know?
Deep, because you know he's just like in scenes where he's talking to an intimate octopus voiced by Tilda Swinton.
That those scenes are great. I do have to say, and this is for the fictional PETA organization in the boys universe. I I look, maybe what I'm about to say is really fucked up. So I do apologize, and I apologize that we have to censor that now. For I guess we don't even get monetized anyways. Who cares? So like, is what he's doing actually bad morally? If it's a consensual relationship and like he has gills, he's not necessarily all human.
Yeah,
Uh, and we see that it is absolutely consensual what he's doing with this octopus. The octopus wants it, he wants it. What is wrong here? Because what's wrong with bestiality in the real world is there's no consent, and it's like also like religious implications, but we're going to throw those out of the water for a second. And like just in this pure instance, is it really that bad?
it's an interesting argument to have, because you know, like you said, he is part fish, so like he shouldn't
Like
get shunned for
if we
that
believe
if it's just like his
if we
natural.
believe in modern yeah, if we believe in modern biology, right? And we believe we share like 75% of our DNA with fish. He probably shares closer than that.
Yeah,
And he
his
like,
biological makeup
you
could
know,
be
it's
more of a fish than it is a human. Like he could just look like a human on the outside, you know.
for real. Maybe his weird behaviors are because he's like kind of part fish in a way. But I digress. That's probably enough bestiality talk for YouTube and the podcast. We probably don't need to get too far into that. We could talk about homosexuality now with Frenchie's
Yeah,
arc. Um, as I think we did know he was gay before this, right? I can't
I,
remember.
I think so, but people on the internet are seeming like this is the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it did seem a little. I look. I am very much. This is definitely a very like progressive podcast we got going on here, even though we're two white guys. It's I loved like the most controversial episode of Last of Us on the farm that they do with the basically the gay love story that made the internet freak out. I think that's one of the best episodes of television of all time. That being said, I currently don't understand the point of this arc.
Yeah, it it almost seems like they're I guess they might just be trying to like push Frenchie out of the group. Isn't that kind of what they were seemed like? It seemed like in the beginning they were like Kimiko's like, you're making me stay here, right? Did I get that messed up?
Something I think it was something like that. I just don't
But yeah,
I don't yeah, I don't
there
know
is just a lot of
100% because
storylines I
this
feel like going on with got all the Homelander stuff. You got Butcher with his illness, and you got Huey's dad. You got the whole Starlight thing. Um, there does just seem to be a lot for it to juggle, but for the most part,
Kimiko's getting upset about human trafficking, which like go
Yeah.
girl, but it just seems like that's just kind of
Yeah.
happening. Uh, I don't know what I think I don't want to judge it too much. I'm not gonna sit up here like the internet and just talk about how this is the quality has gone down the drain because like we haven't seen the payoff of the
Yeah.
arc yet. Like they're very well might are like probably is a plan. Everything else in this show has been so well written. I'm not going to kind of jump to the what is the point of this random filler arc. I think it has to have a point, and it's just not super fleshed out in the first 3 episodes. They were more trying to lay seeds, and that's kind of my take on it. But currently, I do agree that it does seem a little
Yeah.
pointless.
Um, I, I've seen some people talking about how Huey's family storyline doesn't really fit into this season, but I disagree because I thought that the Huey's always kind of been like a relatable character for us because he's like a normal human, and I feel like this just further kind of, I guess, like humanizes him. Not that we needed any more humanizing of him, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it was a good arc to tell, like, within this kind of grander universe of like superheroes and politics and stuff.
I I agree. I think it is something that is necessary. It is a little weird that it's coming in season 4 because obviously you're right. Huey's meant to be almost the character you project yourself onto. He works as at an electronics store. He's not some ex CIA, ex military guy. He just kind of exists and gets roped into
Yeah.
this life. And we get quite a bit of his family dynamics in the first season, and then it just gets kind of shelved for a couple seasons, and they almost acknowledge that in the show, with him ignoring his dad's call, and him, I believe he also ignores his dad's calls in season 3. So they are kind of like setting up for this. We still don't know though if the if his mom is like real. Like I assume she's real because she hasn't disappeared on him yet, but Butcher is seeing his wife
Mm.
because of the effects that Temp V had on his brain, and it's causing those hallucinations, and those hallucinations are kind of like guiding him through the decisions that he needs to make. And now Huey's mom comes into the picture, and we haven't seen her interact with any character other than Huey. Obviously, she did interact with the real world, which the other, which Butcher's wife didn't do. We saw her like putting those essential oils on a tray.
Yeah.
She was doing stuff. So I don't think she's a Vision, but they haven't necessarily confirmed that she's not
I
yet.
hadn't thought about that, and that would be an interesting twist.
Just because, I mean, her character, I don't think it's an awkward inclusion. It's just an interesting inclusion to bring in season 4, and you wonder what the end kind of goal is, or the end arc for her is. Probably that she dies
Yeah.
somehow, or she does something to redeem something. I don't think her arc is just her joining the boys or her just existing in the universe. I think she has like a purpose for this
Yeah.
story, and I'm curious if that is in the confines of, oh dang, Huey also has like something wrong with his brain and they got to get that fixed, or it's more in a way of she's gonna do something snaky or maybe redeeming, and she's the one that provides the secrets, like lavender oil is what kills Homelander.
What a twist that would be.
They just spray a
Yeah.
little lavender oil on him and just
Yeah.
doop, he just melts away.
Another twist that we got was Will Ferrell as as A Train's coach. His
We got
cast as his fictional football coach. I'm assuming that was his football coach.
But we did get Will Ferrell appearing as
Yeah.
Will Ferrell playing in a movie that is basically the origin story of A Train, aka a Blind Side kind of reboot.
Yeah. With the returning Dawn of the Seven director, who's supposed to be J.J. Abrams, but
Yeah.
no, yeah, I really like that scene. Was not expecting to see Will Ferrell in The Boys, and that scene when he's like, what was that I smell? That's an Oscar.
Oh yeah, he's just like, what is that smell? Screaming all over the set. That was
Yeah.
solid. I don't know if that's what J.J. Abrams is like, but I think he's kind of an amalgamation of all like
Sci-fi directors,
the kind of cringy director stuff. So yeah, that was a fun bit. I really liked the TruthCon episode. That was in episode 2. They go to TruthCon, which is like this conspiracy thing, and like if anyone is bored while watching, well, you shouldn't be bored while watching. But if you're watching it and you want to pause while they go through that, there's a lot of really funny, just like things that they did in the background with TruthCon that you could tell they just had a bunch of fun just going wild with it. And I think this is maybe where the discourse is coming from about it being like left-wing propaganda. I don't think that it's super left. It might lean left a little bit because there's just more comedy with making fun of like the Trump and like kind of extreme right-wing media. There's just a bit more comedy there, but I think it is a fairly balanced take. They like AOC is essentially Victoria Newman. There's a lot of different things about how both sides are just terrible. So I don't think what you should be taking from it is this is any sort of political message. It's obviously political, but I don't think it's trying to sway you in any way other than everything kind of sucks, which is probably the correct take to have at our current point in time. And then I think that's when they reveal the 2 new members of the 7, which really just brings them up to 6, and then it's implied that Homelander's son, who they initially pitch as Homeboy, which would have been terrible, but also just hilarious that just the corporate ignorance of that pitch was just so spot on, and they're so good at doing those. But they do bring in Firecracker and Sister Sage, and I think the interesting thing with this is Sister Sage is the one that wants to bring in Firecracker, because you're kind of like, what is the point of bringing in Firecracker? She just can make like sparkles with her hands, and she's strong, I guess. But I think that's the interesting thing about Sister Sage's character is everything does seem to have a direction and seems to be making sense. But it's just a matter of getting there and seeing the story unfold. But it's almost like she already knows how this whole season's about to go, and you're kind of just going along, seeing her react to that, which I think's a pretty fun dynamic.
Yeah, it's something that we hadn't seen before in this show, and it gives extra weight to almost every single decision that's made, like in the scenes that she's in, because you're thinking like, oh, she's got to be 10 steps ahead of everyone here. So yeah, I really enjoy that aspect of her, and just like she's also just like really good playing off of the other actors, like the Deep and in Homelander, like really good stuff.
Yeah, and then in episode 3, that's when the timely trial wraps up. Now it's pretty obvious they wanted to get this out probably right around some other trial that was going on, and this trial had a different result, as he is uh, marked innocent, and then you see Sister Sage hit him with the good old fascist, throw a coffee on him, which then incites a riot, which then puts into action the next step of the plan, which was beating a bunch of Homelander supporters mercilessly with bats, which we get to see a bit more of the new Black Noir character, which I
Yeah,
am
me too.
liking. I'm curious if the result of this is going to be him maybe turning and being a good guy, or maybe something traumatizing happens where he stops speaking and then kind of falls more into the Black Noir role that we saw in the first 3
Yeah.
seasons.
Yeah, I love the reveal of after he just like beats that guy to death and he's like, what the fuck just happened? It's like we were not expecting him to talk at all. And then he just like he's the one that's just like, what are we doing? Like love that.
Do you know the name of the stepdad dude? I
Stepdad.
forgot his name. Todd, I think. Is that right?
The what oh, is that the was that one of the Homelander bands?
The Homelander supporter that was married to Mother's Milk
Oh
wife?
yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what his name
Yeah,
is.
or ex-wife? Yeah. Well, there was a Twitter user that was basically role playing as him for like years. I'm curious if he's like continuing, or if he killed off the character. Cuz spoilers, we do see the um unfortunately, oh no. I do have an update. He reached 33,000 followers on X. It was at Homelander D Ride. Home bio was Homelander's strongest warrior, proud American, Homelander supporter, and stepdad. Snowflakes beware. He created this account over 2 years ago and has been tweeting pretty consistently. The boys account like shouts him out and stuff. He'll comment on like real life events and kind of tie it back into the boys universe. And he did post a tweet. And it's actually, this is Todd's mom. I've logged onto his account to let you know of his unfortunate
Damn.
passing. Todd will be remembered for his patriotism, positivity, love for his family. We will miss you, Todd. Hashtag rip Todd. So he killed off his Twitter persona. R.I.P.
Rest in peace, King.
I wonder if the writers, because the writers have to know about this guy, like 30,000 followers for like a fan account pretending to be someone, and he's had a few viral tweets. Like they would be at least generally aware of this guy. I wonder if they did like think about that while killing off his character, and were like, "Oh, sucks to be him, I guess."
Yeah, that's really funny.
Uh, but they did, like I'm saying, kill off his character, and then 2 other Homelander supporters, and then they drop him at the riot, trying to frame the Starlighters as murderers, which is a common thing that happens all the time today. But anyways, that then creates a big outrage and kind of exactly what Sister Sage was trying to do. So the only thing that's really messing it up is A-Train's kind of redemption arc, which there's some discourse on whether he deserves or not. But I think that could be said about a lot of celebrities that get redemption arcs, you know? So A-Train is feeling bad about the fact that, he's not a hero, that all of his saves are fake, that he didn't really benefit anyone, and he's kind of having a little crisis about it, and seems like he's deciding to help the boys. We see it in 2 different instances so far this season. We see him save Huey, which definitely is a big contrast from season 1, episode 1, where he runs through Huey's girlfriend and it's just like, oh, bye. And then he gives the essentially the proof that the Starlighters weren't the ones that killed the Homelander supporters by providing that to the boys there. So he's kind of messing up Sister Sage's plan a bit. So I imagine there is going to be some conflict
Yeah.
there coming up here.
Yep.
And then to end off the episode, the cliffhanger I think we got left on, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the cliffhanger we left on was the Deep and Sister Sage hooking up, which was a bit out of left field.
Until we saw,
but I'm here for
it. She dampened her powers using, because after that shot, it zoomed out and it showed like a rod on the table that was like all bloody, and people are saying that she used that to dampen her powers, just to get away from like having to deal with the like constant like agony of being the smartest person in the world. And apparently in the scene where they're looking at all of her statistics, it says that she has a healing ability. So her abilities will come back, but she did dampen them temporarily, which I think is interesting.
I paused on that because I was like, why the fuck is there a bloody rod right here? And you could see in the scene, like behind that, there's a book on lobotomies. So she literally gave herself a lobotomy so that she could, I guess, hook up with the Deep and not hate it. I think that's the implication here.
It might have also just been like, if you have to deal with the weight of knowing every single fact of all time, like you're gonna want to give yourself some sort of a break. Like it must be nice just to have some moments of quiet, and if that means hooking up with the Deep, I'm sure that like if your brain is finally quiet after so many years of just constant knowledge being thrown at you, I'm sure that anything would probably feel good at that point.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I'm sure she's probably tried THC, but that's generally what I do for that. But I guess a lobotomy works as well. Quick rod in the skull, and just move on. But I like the first 3 episodes. Left me with more questions about the kind of future of the show. So I'm kind of anxiously anticipating that, but I think that's sometimes a trap we fall into with weekly releases is you have these overreactionaries that want to have a concrete opinion on the season after 3 episodes. They want to be like, season 4, the quality has gone downhill, or it's the best The Boys has ever been. Like they just for some reason want to have that opinion. But it's been 3 episodes. We don't know anything yet, and so far it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. They said that season 5 is going to be the last season, so it seems like we're kind of on the home stretch. We're headed towards what seems to be like the end game of the show, and I'm excited to see it all culminate and see where things end up.
I think the logical kind of thing, because it's generally one big villain dies each season. Stormfront. There's other ones, but I think Homelander is the season 5. Like I think he's got at least one more. But I think this is probably Newman's last season. We'll see. I think that's gonna be like the big fight is gonna be killing her. But obviously there's
at the end of the season, Butcher's gonna turn Ryan, and then the final season's gonna be Ryan versus Homelander.
Yeah, and then I feel like a spinoff is almost guaranteed unless ratings and viewership goes in the toilet in season 5, which I wouldn't anticipate. So it then comes down to what would that spinoff be. I think there's a good chance it would be with Ryan, kind of exploring his life as the first natural born superhero. And then right around that time, his character would probably be in his early adulthood, or like 17, 18, which I could definitely see them doing
Yeah.
something like that. Or spinning off with like Huey and Starlight, or anything they could do. But I just don't see this being the end of The Boys, season 5, even given that they were so uh, very anticipated, like doing Gen V and stuff. And there's going to be a second season of Gen V, which is continuing on with some changes due to the death of one of their stars there. But I think they're just kind of adjusting the script and just keeping it moving. So it seems like The Boys is just this kind of Amazon's like number one franchise. I think Fallout has a chance to take that spot given how popular that was, but The Boys has been here, and it's been here for a while. So I don't anticipate it slowing down, and I enjoyed these first 3 episodes, and I'm really excited to see uh, where
Yeah.
this ends.
One last thing, that shot of Homelander staring at the broken glass and all the different personalities of Homelander. That was so goofy, but it was so good. Like it felt like I
It
was
was
watching
so
Spider-Man 1
good.
again with Willem Dafoe. I was like, this is one of the best villains
Yeah.
that we've ever seen on screen. And he's just absolutely killing all of these different personalities of Homelander.
Obviously, Anthony Starr seems to be a fairly problematic individual, and I think that's just because he's like a bit
Yeah.
unhinged. So like it, he, it. I think that's like the Homelander
Yeah.
shot when you're talking about Homelander as a character. That's like it is him looking at that broken mirror. That's just it's so good, and I thought the same thing. I was thinking about the goblin scene, and I started thinking about, Anthony Starr could be a Norman
Yeah.
Osborn. I could see that. Right around that age, he's naturally got darker hair, so it'd work out just fine. We can get some cornrows on the boy, and we can get going.
Love that.
But I think that's all we have to say about those 3
Yep.
episodes. I liked them all. I think episode 2 might have gotten a little bit slow for like The Boys, but I think that's fine when they're dropping all 3 of those at once. The Boys always has this like pace because it is like a weekly release. That each episode has something like insane
Yeah.
happening. In episode 1 and 3 had that, but 2 didn't really have that. And I think that's because they knew that it was all going to release at once. So it kind of changed the pacing of that episode, which makes it feel a little interesting. But I think that's fine when you know what your release
Yeah.
structure looks like. And that's just, communication between production and other branches of production. It's all
Yep.
production. So speaking of production, pretty solid segue. We'll go from a production that seems like they have good communication to a production that seems like they have no communication at all, and that is the Blade MCU movie. So we're going to be going through a Variety article, kind of just hitting off the points, but talking about it with our own kind of take on it. So, a timeline. It's been 5 years since Blade has been announced. With you go ahead and hit the name for me, Trent. I've already.
At San Diego Comic-Con, Hall H. Kevin Feige came out here and introduced Mahershala Ali as Blade, and it's been one for the history books ever since, because nobody's seen him, nobody's seen Blade. We've heard one word of Blade in the MCU, but other than that, he's just been in kind of production limbo. And yeah, we're about to break it down. So back on July 20th, 2019 was back when this all started. Like I said, back in Hall H, Kevin Feige brings out Mahershala Ali. He unveils the new Blade. everybody's going crazy. They're like, "Oh my god, Blade's coming. He'll be here in the next 3 years." And here we are 5 years later.
They're like, hey, we got no director, no screenwriter, but here's the
Yeah,
star, baby. This is probably the biggest problem with Marvel is you would think that there's a reason that they cast him because, oh, if, you know, if we have the star, but we don't have a director or screenwriter, oh, he's definitely going to be like in Werewolf by Night or something,
yeah,
right? No. Oh, he's definitely going to be in one of these other projects. Like, why not? Like, throw him in there. Maybe a little hint to him. Maybe Moon Knight. I don't know. No, nothing. We're just going to cast this man, announce to the world that this is Blade, and then do nothing about it.
yeah. So a little bit Marvel. This isn't the first time Marvel's done this because back in 2015, I want to say they introduced Brie Larson as Captain Marvel and essentially just did the same thing where they're like, we got the perfect person playing the character, but we have no intentions of putting them in any movie yet. But we'll just having the name attached to it. I feel like Marvel wants to get a little bit of hype around it, and maybe somebody like Jordan Peele is going to be like, oh, Mahershala Ali in a MCU movie, like let's do it. But unfortunately, that did not happen. They instead waited about 6 months, and then they hired on a director who was Stacey Osai Kapoor, and she had never directed anything. So this is going back to Marvel's problem of picking first time or like little known directors and trying to give them the reins, trying to give them the keys to one of their big properties.
Which isn't necessarily a
No.
bad thing, but the reason it's their intention that's
Yeah.
wrong. Their intention is that these smaller directors are easier to influence from the studio, and that's why they're doing it. It wouldn't be a bad thing if they were like, hey, let's give this talented person that hasn't gotten a shot yet a big budget and a shot. There's plenty of like history around that working out for studios, but what the reason they're doing it isn't the reason it works out.
Yeah.
And then like we're talking 2 years of just director limbo. They brought in a new director after that, um, Bassam Tariq, who was then brought in to direct, and he hasn't really done anything. We're talking documentaries, short films. He had one feature length film that, granted, very, very well received by critics, but it's a smaller movie about a Pakistani rapper. It's not like not really inside
Yeah.
the genre.
And then, so that was July 2021. And then November rolls around and the world is shocked by the reception of Eternals. And we're sitting through the end credit scenes thinking that we're going to see something. And we see Jon Snow open up a big box, put his hand inside, grab a sword, and then we hear I guess it's one line that we've heard him say. He says like, "Don't touch that" or something, which is just like people automatically were like, "Oh, that's Blade," which is like so funny.
Ollie's voice can be heard off camera. Quote, "Sure, you're ready for that, Mr.
Oh yeah,
Whitman?"
which is just like really funny because why not just tell like why not just go back and do a Blade origin story? Like you're trying to like I don't know.
They got this thing, and I think they got it during the Spider-Man era because I don't know, people are like, hey, we've seen the Spider-Man origin story so many times we don't need to see it again. But that's not true with every superhero. It's not like we don't like origin stories. We just don't want to see the same one told 3 times in the span of 15
Yeah.
years. But like you could tell the Blade origin story again. Like most kids haven't seen Blade, don't know who Blade is. Just do the
Yeah.
origin story.
In I don't know, in them trying to make it connected by having this Dane Whitman character. I think he's like the what is it the he plays the White Knight or something. That's what his Marvel character's name in. Probably a problematic name, but
Black Knight,
Black
actually.
Knight. Okay, so I was
Yeah, no,
problematic
it's okay.
saying that, but
Yeah, no, it's you're whitewashing the his alias.
so
But
yeah.
I will go back one sec. I sorry to interrupt you, but I gotta tell you the other ones. He's also been known as Phoenix Knight, the Pendragon in
I
Blood
like the
Wrath.
Pendragon. I think that that should be his official name in the MCU. It should be Blade
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Pendragon is the title.
yeah,
Just like Deadpool and Wolverine. That'll get just as much
yeah.
hits on YouTube, I'm sure. But yeah, after that we get Blade saying one line in Eternals, and people are like, surely he's gonna show up soon. Maybe we'll see him in Multiverse of Madness. Nope. But they have signed on another actor, apparently. Delroy Lindo has joined the cast. He was in a few movies that came out over the pandemic, I'm pretty sure. Da Five Bloods and The Harder They Fall. Both uh, both were really good ensemble movies, but
I'm convinced that this movie's just a tax write off, but no one informed the casting department
I mean,
because like a few months later in February of 2022, they cast another person, Aaron Pierce, who joins in an undisclosed role. I mean, they're all undisclosed roles. Have they even finished the actual script? Don't know.
yeah, I love how they're just like this person will star alongside him, but we have no idea what what the story is yet. So
But good news, there's an official release date,
yeah,
Trent.
so there was an official release date of November 3rd, 2023. So we would have been talking about this around the start of the podcast, back around episode 5 of the podcast, but so it was originally supposed to come out then. I think that they were probably planning on having something ready to go for Comic Con. I think they didn't even release. I don't even think they delayed it until that year.
Yeah, I was just looking at this timeline. It didn't get delayed until October of 2022, and the director exited in September of 2020, like the end of September, meaning when the director exited, there was only what 12
Yeah,
months, like 13 months until the movie was supposed to
yeah,
come out. Hadn't started filming yet. The director had exited, and it took them like almost a they took them a good bit to actually push it back to 2024, in which they moved it to September 6th of 2024.
yeah. So 2 months before they were set to film, the director left, like you said, and that kind of just put the film further into production limbo, and they, like you said, pushed it back to 2024, and then in November, so 2 months after the other director left the project, they hired on Jan Demange, who probably said that wrong, but he has directed such films as White Boy Rick and 71, which are two very, looks like pretty small projects. I guess this one's got Matthew McConaughey in it and Jonathan Majors, but let's see, budget $29 million movie. So another director that's not really that experienced.
Yeah, I was looking at those, and yeah, it's not, you know, I'm sure he could have done a fine job, but he's really why we're talking about this because 2 days ago he exited, meaning they had lost their third director. Um, because in February they said it was going to start production in about 10 weeks, but that doesn't mean it's going to start filming in 10 weeks. But Feige was just like, oh, it'll start production in 10 weeks, which makes it hasn't. Shouldn't production have been started by now? We've cast like half the movie. We've gone through like a couple directors. How is production not started? Uh, and that was February of 2023, and then they cast another person. Mia Goth joined the cast, and then they signed on a writer from True Detective to do the screenplay in April 28th of 2023, which it's like the screenplay still isn't done. Like, we've gone through probably about 4 or 5 writers at this point. Then pre-production on May 5th, 2023 was shut down due to the writer's strike, which if you were on the internet during that time, which I am sure you were well aware of the writer's strike. It's the reason why there wasn't movies for like the first half of 2024. There was just nothing to watch. So that one's not on Marvel. So then the release date got pushed back to 2025, to February 14th of 2025, which falls within Black History Month, which I do find it a little weird when Marvel just seems to try to put all of their Black superhero releases in Black History Month, but I digress. It's fine for Black Panther. It's a little strange for Blade, but hey. Who cares? It's just a month. Anyways, Michael Green then joined as screenwriter. I don't know if this was to replace the screenwriter, but apparently Ollie was dissatisfied with the earlier drafts, so it was the guy that wrote Logan. So there was finally a bit of credentials behind some of the staff here for the kind of fourth rendition of the screenplay. And then it got pushed back again to November 7th of 2025, so out of that slot. And then Ollie kind of spoke on it. He constantly is speaking on it because his name is so attached to this project, because no other name is attached to this project. He's the only consistent name. And this was in December 6th of 2023, where he says he was sincerely encouraged by the progress they were making on the film. And then Aaron Pierce, who was cast way earlier in the process, which makes you wonder why they cast so early in the process, said he was no longer in Blade. I don't know if it was a contractual issue, a creative issue, but he just said he's no longer attached. And then finally, wrapping up the timeline on June 12th, Tom Brady Day, 6/12, Jan Demange exited as director, and Eric Pearson, joined as yet another screenwriter who is known for his work on Thor Ragnarok, Black Widow, and Godzilla vs. Kong. So a fairly controversial writer in terms of how, some of those are perceived, but from what I've seen of these projects, it's mostly good. So, there's some hope there, but currently we still sit in limbo with no director. They went from trying to get outside writers to now hiring people that have worked on MCU projects before, so kind of back to the old MO. So I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in a, director that they've worked with previously to do this at this point, just so they know they won't drop out. It almost seems like Marvel just needs to have a roster of like 15 directors that they work with or something, because They are
Yeah, they
struggling
need to
right now.
sign those multi-movie contracts, but with directors.
That would be unprecedented, but at this point, it needs to
Yeah,
happen.
like, all right, you're gonna make this Captain America movie, then you're gonna go over here and make this, this Ironheart series, and then you're gonna go over here and you're gonna write Blade. um,
Oh my god, yeah. Now I'm thinking about how Ironheart was in Black Panther,
and
and I'm
apparently
just
that's still
like,
coming out.
I'm
Yeah,
apparently.
but yeah, it just seems like Marvel, it, they're just they just go for vibes. Like Kevin Feige sitting down watching X or Pearl, and he's like, I gotta get Mia Goth on the phone right now, and he calls her up, and he's like, I got a project for you, and it's just like without even the character even being
Right.
written into the movie, he's like, oh yeah, you're gonna be great in this movie, and I feel like they do that with
Very
directors, they
much
do
so,
that with
yeah.
writers, they do that with actors, like I remember Ki Hoi Kwan, who was in Loki, said that the first call that he got after Everything Everywhere All at Once came out was Kevin Feige, like calling him and telling him that he wanted him to be in Loki. So it feels like Kevin Feige truly is just like trying to scoop up anybody who's relevant at any time, and then trying to make them fit into this world. You know?
And it's interesting because we don't even know of all the people that say no. But yeah, there's Chloe Zhao that did Eternals. She won, um, I believe, a Academy Award, yeah, for best directing, and then her next film was Eternals. After that, I believe the film was what,
Yeah,
Nomadland. Yeah, um, won an Academy Award and was kind of a strange fit for a Marvel project, but it was literally just because it seemed like she won Best Director. So it was like, oh, we want to give someone with credibility a Marvel movie. We want to make a bit more high art, is what that, like you're saying, vibes. It was just doing it off vibes, which when you're winning, um, and everything is good, it is a lot easier to do that because people are going to be saying yes. But now it makes it a lot harder when you're sitting where they are now, and there's kind of a perception around Marvel that it's a sinking ship. So how do you right that ship? I I don't know what the answer is. I assume there's people smarter than me, getting paid a lot more than me to try to figure this out, but they got to figure something out. If do
yeah.
something.
They just need to get Blade off the ground. Just just have Mahershala Ali direct it. I'm sure that he'll be a better option than any of the other candidates that they've got so far, because he's probably had time to read every single comic that Blade's ever been in to to truly understand the role, and he thought that he'd
He's
only
been
have
Blade for
time to get
5 years.
through the first 100 issues, but the time came, and then he reached 100 issues. Director got fired. He's like, all right, let's just read 100 more, and that just kept going on. And I think at this point he's ran out of Blade comics, so he's probably knows
Yeah.
Blade more than anybody. Maybe consult Wesley Snipes if if he seems up for it. He's probably not, but yeah, just figure it out.
Figure it out. He is Blade at this point, which is so strange for someone that has never actually appeared as Blade. But he is. I kind of like the idea of just letting him be the director. If it's terrible, it's terrible. But like, he apparently wasn't satisfied with some of the script choices, and that's why you brought in a new screenwriter. If you're already doing all this to appease him, just let him cook. Who cares at this point? If it's a terrible movie, it's at least a movie
Yeah,
that came out. You've already sunk probably a good 100 million into this, just knowing how like pre budgeting goes and such. Like, it's just already, yeah, you could get the tax write off, but just
yeah.
let it happen. Let it happen. Make the
Kevin
movie.
Feige just stand up and direct it himself if he really knows what he wants.
Kevin Feige's directorial debut.
Blade. That'd be crazy. That'd be so funny.
That would like movie side of the internet would go ballistic. It would be a cultural event right there, for sure. But I think that's all we have so far. So we're gonna have to just pay attention, see what's going on, and see if there's anything in sight. Ali did his attorney addressed the situation, saying that deal was in 2019, and they still haven't shot it, which is pretty much the craziest thing in my professional experience.
I wonder if it says in the contract like this movie will be done by. It's probably like they probably give years like 2030 because they don't even know like.
Right, there's no actual like deadline for this contract. Ali's just like stuck into this. He cannot not be Blade until the movie is made. So he forever just has to hope that they make this movie, because I guess he's still under contract. I don't know what this contract looks like at this point, but he's still on it. But that's all we got for today. If you did listen this far, feel free to leave us a comment about literally anything ever. We do read every single one. There's not a single comment that we haven't read. That's a factual thing. And if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave a like. If you are on like the audio side of things, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, there's the little rating on there. I'd really appreciate if you did that one. That'd be cool. But other than that, just have a great day, and let us know if you see any directors out on the street that can maybe pick up a Blade contract, and we'll get them in contact.
Facts. Thanks everyone for listening.
Or if you want to direct Blade,
open applications.
We will
make it open directing call. But thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you will join us next time. Deuces.
Peace.